You see, we often say we believe in miracles, but do we really believe before they happen? Most people are waiting to see something. They're waiting for the pain to stop, for the doctor's report to change, for the money to appear, for the door to open. And only then do they feel like they can finally say, yes, I believe God has done it. But that's not faith, that's sight. Real faith, the kind of faith that touches heaven and pulls down the impossible, begins long before there's any proof. It begins in the stillness of your heart, in the quiet moments when nothing looks like it's going to change. And yet you dare to say, I believe you, Lord. I trust you. Oh, that is precious to God. That is the kind of faith that moves him. The Holy Spirit is the one who teaches us how to believe like that. You cannot do it in your own strength. Flesh cannot produce faith. You can read all the books, listen to all the sermons, and quote all the right scriptures. But if the Holy Spirit hasn't breathed upon it, it will only be information, not transformation. Only the Spirit of the living God can awaken true faith in the human heart. He makes Jesus so real to you that you begin to believe in what he can do, even when everything around you says otherwise. There were times when I stood in places where every eye was filled with doubt. People came in wheelchairs, on stretchers, with limbs twisted and bodies broken. The atmosphere was thick with desperation. I could see it in their eyes. The fear, the questions, the longing. And I would stand there, not relying on anything of myself, because I had nothing to give them. Absolutely nothing. But the moment I yielded to the Holy Spirit, something would shift. Oh yes, something would shift in the atmosphere. Faith would begin to rise, not because of me, not because of a feeling, but because the Spirit of God was teaching hearts to believe before the miracles began to unfold. It's not hard to believe after someone jumps out of a wheelchair. It's not difficult to say God is real when the tumors are gone, when the child is healed, when the miracle is standing in front of you. But the kind of belief God is looking for is the one that dares to praise before the breakthrough. That's the kind of faith that shakes heaven. I remember once standing backstage before a service, and my heart was trembling, not with fear, but with holy dependence. I said to the Lord, if you don't do it, it won't be done. I can't make anything happen. I can't heal anyone. I can't save anyone. But I believe you will come. I believe you will move. And he did. Not because I deserved it, not because I was special, but because I believed. That's all God is looking for. Someone who believes him before the miracle happens. And oh, the Holy Spirit is so gentle. He doesn't shout. He doesn't push. But he comes to the one who says, teach me to believe. He comes to the one who lays down their doubts and their control and says, even if I don't see it yet, I trust you. You might be in a season right now where nothing is changing. The pain is still there. The job hasn't come. The family hasn't been restored. And the enemy whispers, see, God isn't going to do it. But I want you to hear the whisper of the Spirit over that voice. He's saying, believe me, even now, especially now. Do you know what heaven celebrates? It celebrates that kind of faith. The kind that sings while the chains are still on. The kind that gives thanks while the tomb is still closed. The kind that builds an ark when there's not a cloud in the sky. That kind of faith draws the very presence of God. I've seen people come into a service completely bound by fear, and I've watched the Holy Spirit soften their hearts until, suddenly, you could see it. Their countenance changed. Their posture shifted. They began to believe again. And that moment right there, before the healing, before the miracle, that moment of faith rising, that is the real miracle. That is when heaven begins to move. If we wait to believe until we see it, we've missed the invitation. The Holy Spirit is inviting us to believe now, to trust now, to say with childlike surrender, Lord, I believe, even before the answer comes. That's the place where the supernatural is born. That's the soil where miracles take root. The miracle begins the moment you believe. You can't believe in miracles until you know the one who performs them. You can't trust in power you've never encountered. And, my dear, the Holy Spirit is not a mist or a force or some vague influence in the air. He is a person. He is real. He is gentle. He is holy. He is God. And it is only through him that we come to truly know the power of the miraculous. There are so many people today trying to believe in miracles without first knowing the miracle worker. They try to stir up faith. They try to convince themselves that something will change, but their belief is rooted in hope alone, not in relationship. And hope without the Spirit becomes desperation. But oh, when the Holy Spirit comes, when he is invited, when he is honored, he reveals the glory of Jesus in such a way that your heart begins to burn, and suddenly you know that God is able, not just in your mind, you know it deep in your spirit. I cannot tell you how many times I've stood before thousands, and yet I was more aware of the Holy Spirit than I was of the crowd. And that's the only way miracles can happen. The Holy Spirit is not drawn to performance. He is drawn to yieldedness. When a heart is surrendered, when a person says, Holy Spirit, have your way, he will come. And when he comes, he brings with him the atmosphere of heaven. That's where miracles live, in the presence of the Holy Spirit. You can't separate miracles from him. Some people want his power, but they don't want his presence. They want healing without surrender. They want results without relationship. But the Holy Spirit cannot be used. He is not an instrument. He is the Holy One, and yet he comes so tenderly, so humbly, so patiently, and he whispers, let me show you who Jesus is. That's his greatest joy, to reveal Jesus. And once you've seen Jesus through the eyes of the Spirit, you can't help but believe. You see, the Holy Spirit never speaks on his own. He takes from the heart of the Father and reveals it to us. He doesn't come to draw attention to himself. He comes to glorify the Son. That's how you can tell it's really the Holy Spirit. Jesus becomes everything. Your eyes are lifted. Your spirit begins to hope again. And faith isn't something you try to muster up. It begins to rise naturally because you've seen the one who makes all things possible. I've watched people come into a room filled with the presence of the Holy Spirit, and without anyone laying a hand on them, without a single word being spoken, they begin to weep. Something softens, something opens. That's not emotion, that's revelation. That's the Spirit of God revealing truth to the innermost part of a person. And once that light breaks through, they begin to believe. Not in man, not in a ministry, but in Jesus. And the moment they believe, oh, the miracle is already underway. That's why I plead with people again and again. Don't seek miracles. Seek the Holy Spirit. Don't chase signs. Chase his presence. Because when he comes, signs follow. When he is given the place of honor, healing flows. Deliverance comes. Broken hearts are mended. And the impossible begins to bend under the weight of his glory. Some of you are trying to believe with your mind. You're wrestling and reasoning and trying to understand how God could ever turn things around. But the Holy Spirit doesn't need your understanding. He needs your heart. When you surrender your logic and simply say, Spirit of God, I trust you, that's when he begins to move. Not always in ways we expect, not always on the timeline we choose, but always in a way that reveals more of Jesus. There was a time when I asked the Lord, why do some people receive their miracle and others do not? And his answer was not complicated. He said, some come to me, others only come for what I can give. The Holy Spirit is not a vending machine. He is not a formula. He is the presence of God himself, and he longs to be welcomed. And when we welcome him, not just his gifts, but him, then the miraculous becomes the natural outflow. Oh, I wish you could see what I see when the Spirit moves. I wish you could feel what it's like when the weight of his glory rests on a room. Time stands still, pain disappears, faith takes over. That's not the work of man. That's the work of the Holy Spirit. That's what he loves to do. He reveals Jesus until you can no longer doubt. He opens the eyes of your heart until you no longer question. You simply believe. And that's when the miracle begins. It is only the Holy Spirit who can make the unseen real. So many people think miracles come through effort. If they just pray enough, fast long enough, say all the right words, and do everything exactly right, then maybe, just maybe, God will do something for them. They believe if they can perform perfectly, then the miracle will come. But my dear, miracles are not earned. They are not the result of performance. They are the fruit of relationship, a relationship with the Holy Spirit, who knows the heart of the Father and reveals Jesus in all his power and beauty. You cannot twist God's arm with your good works. You cannot manipulate the Holy Spirit with emotion. He doesn't respond to pressure. He responds to surrender. The miracles I've witnessed over the years didn't come because someone shouted louder, cried harder, or fasted longer. No, they came when the atmosphere was filled with one thing, the presence of the Holy Spirit. And where He is, miracles simply happen. Not because we deserve them, not because we earned them, but because that's who He is. That's what He does when He is welcomed. People would often come to me with their needs, and I would see the desperation in their eyes. Some would say, "Tell me what to do. What must I do to be healed? Tell me the steps. Show me the method." But there is no method. There is no formula. The only answer I could give them, the only answer I still give, is come closer to the Holy Spirit. Let Him become real to you. Because when He becomes real, your striving will cease. And when the striving stops, faith begins. You don't need to impress the Holy Spirit. You don't need to persuade Him. He is already willing. He is already ready to move. But He waits for your heart to come low, not to perform, but to yield. That's the secret, if there is one. Yieldedness. A heart that says, "Lord, I cannot make anything happen, but I believe You can." That's where miracles begin. Do you know what pleases God most? It's not your strength. It's not your perfection. It's your trust. And trust is born out of relationship. The more you walk with the Holy Spirit, the more you come to trust His voice, His leading, His timing. And when you trust Him, you stop trying to make things happen in your own strength. You stop trying to force a miracle. You simply rest. Rest in Him, rest in His promise, rest in the love He has for you. I remember once there was a woman in a meeting who had come for healing. She had tried everything, doctors, diets, even other meetings. And she was tired, I could see it. She had done everything right, said all the right things, prayed all the right prayers, and yet nothing had changed. And when she finally let go, when she stopped trying to earn her healing and simply surrendered to the presence of the Holy Spirit, oh, what a moment that was. Peace came over her. Tears streamed down her face. And before a single hand was laid on her, she was healed. Not because of what she did, but because of what she released. The need to perform. That's when the miracle came. You see, when you know the Holy Spirit, really know Him, you understand that everything He does flows from love. Not obligation, not performance, not pressure. Love. The love of God poured out through the Spirit who dwells in you. That love is what heals. That love is what delivers. That love is what brings the dead back to life, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And you don't have to earn love, you just have to receive it. So many of us are afraid to be weak. We think if we're weak, God will pass us by. But His strength is made perfect in weakness. He's drawn to weakness. He's drawn to the broken, to the humble, to the ones who know they have nothing to offer except their surrender. And when the Holy Spirit finds a surrendered heart, He pours Himself out without measure, not because you've performed well, but because you've given Him space. Miracles are not about your ability, they are about your availability. Are you willing to stop doing long enough to start receiving? Are you willing to stop performing long enough to start trusting? The Holy Spirit doesn't need your perfection. He just needs your yes. That's what makes the Christian life so beautiful. It's not a life of constant effort. It's not a stage where we act holy and strong and pretend we have it all together. It's a life of deep daily relationship with the Spirit of God. And in that relationship, miracles don't feel like rare events. They become natural expressions of God's love, breaking through our limitations. When you stop trying to earn a miracle and start walking with the one who performs them, you'll find they happen in ways you never expected. Quietly, suddenly, beautifully, not because of what you've done, but because of who He is. The miracle is in the yielding. There is something that happens when the Holy Spirit comes, something so sacred, so tender, so unmistakable. You can feel it in the air, you can sense it in your spirit. All at once, the noise inside quiets down, the fear loosens its grip, and doubt begins to melt like wax in the fire of His presence. That's not imagination, that's not emotionalism. That's the reality of the Holy Spirit. And when He is present, everything changes. Doubt cannot stand in His presence. It may try to whisper, it may try to linger in the corners of your mind, but when the Holy Spirit fills the room, when He fills your heart, that doubt loses its power. Because when He comes, He doesn't bring ideas or opinions. He brings the truth. And when truth comes, lies must leave. I have stood in many places surrounded by every kind of impossibility, sickness, suffering, situations that no man could fix. And in those moments, I've learned something. Trying to fight fear with logic never works. Trying to convince doubt to leave with arguments or reason will only wear you out. But when the Holy Spirit comes, when His presence fills the atmosphere, you don't have to try to believe. You just do. You don't have to shout at your doubt. You don't have to wrestle with your unbelief. You just have to welcome Him. That's all. The moment He steps in, peace follows. Peace that silences fear. Peace that steadies your heart. Peace that allows you to say, I believe you, Lord, even before you've seen anything change. It's in His presence that faith begins to breathe again. Maybe yours has been buried under discouragement or worn thin by disappointment. Maybe you've seen others healed, others restored, others blessed, and you've quietly wondered, what about me? And little by little that doubt has crept in. But I want you to know, the Holy Spirit is not intimidated by your doubt. He is not offended by your questions. He comes not to condemn, but to draw you close. He comes to make Jesus real to you again. Not in theory, not in a sermon, but in a way that fills every dry place in your heart. The enemy works in the absence of presence. He speaks loudest when you feel most alone. That's why his first strategy is always to isolate you, to pull you away from the presence of God, to convince you that you're too far, too broken, too doubtful to come close. But the Holy Spirit says the opposite. He draws near to the brokenhearted. He runs toward the weak. And the moment you welcome Him, even in your weakness, He brings with Him a stillness that silences every lie of the enemy. I've seen people tormented by fear, unable to lift their heads, their hearts weighed down by years of hopelessness. But the moment the Holy Spirit fills the room, you can see the shift. Their shoulders relax, their breathing slows, their eyes begin to lift. And suddenly, the fear doesn't feel so heavy anymore. Suddenly, there's a flicker of faith again. That is the ministry of the Spirit. That is the gift of His presence. You cannot manufacture that. You cannot force that kind of transformation. It's not emotional manipulation. It's not religious hype. It's the nearness of the Spirit of God. And where He is, liberty follows, healing follows, miracles follow. But He comes only where He is welcome. You cannot rush Him. You cannot box Him in. He waits to be invited. He waits for someone, just one person, to say, Holy Spirit, come. And when He comes, He doesn't just touch the body. He heals the heart. He restores the soul, and He removes the weight of unbelief. I've known what it is to feel overwhelmed, even while preaching, even while ministering, when the burden of impossibility tries to settle on your shoulders. But every time I turned my heart toward Him, every single time, He came, quietly, faithfully, and He carried what I could not carry. That's what He does. He lifts the burden, He takes the pressure off. And in that place of peace, in that place of surrender, miracles begin to flow. Don't wait until the fear is gone to invite Him in. Invite Him into the middle of your fear. Don't wait until your faith is strong to welcome His presence. Invite Him into your weakness. It's not the absence of doubt that brings miracles. It's the presence of the Holy Spirit. And when He is near, doubt doesn't have a chance. Let Him come. Let Him rest upon you. Let Him do what no man can do. When the Holy Spirit comes, fear goes. We often say we believe in miracles, and we do. But there is a difference between believing in what God can do and being willing to trust Him before we see a single sign. It's one thing to rejoice after the healing has come, after the breakthrough has arrived, after the answer has appeared. But it's a very different thing to believe when everything still looks the same. To believe when the pain is still there, when the bank account is still empty, when the child hasn't come home yet, when the door still hasn't opened. That's when faith becomes real. That's when trust is tested. That's when the Holy Spirit whispers, will you believe me before it happens? And my dear, that's the question He asks each one of us, again and again. Will you believe before you see? Will you trust my nature more than your circumstances? Will you hold on to my promise more tightly than you cling to what your eyes are telling you? It's easy to trust God when we're standing on the mountaintop, when everything is going well and the sun is shining. But what about when you're in the valley? What about when you've prayed and waited and nothing seems to have changed? What about when you feel forgotten? That is the place where the Holy Spirit teaches us the kind of belief that opens the door to the miraculous. That's where the roots of faith go deep, not in the visible, but in the visible, not in what you can feel, but in what He has spoken. There have been times, oh, so many times, when I stood before a congregation and looked into faces full of need, and I knew in that moment I could not heal a single one, not one. I had no power in myself. I had no ability to change anything. But I would feel that gentle prompting in my spirit, the nudge of the Holy Spirit saying, lift your eyes. Don't look at what is. Look at what I can do. And I would say, before anything had happened, the miracle is here, not because I saw it yet, but because He was there. And where He is, the miraculous always follows. The Holy Spirit teaches us to believe before there is a reason, in the natural to believe. He teaches us to move past feelings, past logic, past timelines, and into the realm of trust. Not blind trust. No, never blind, but trust based on who He is. Trust based on His character. He has never failed. He has never lied. He has never changed. And if He said He would do it, you can believe it long before it manifests. You can believe in the middle of the silence. You can believe in the face of the storm. You can believe even with tears in your eyes and shaking in your hands. That's what faith looks like. Not certainty in the outcome, but certainty in the one who holds it. And the Holy Spirit is the one who breathes that kind of faith into us. You cannot manufacture it. You cannot force it. You cannot pretend your way into it. But when you spend time in His presence, when you learn to recognize His voice, to yield to His leading, something begins to happen inside you. A quiet confidence grows. A deep knowing takes root. And even when everything around you says, it's too late, your heart says, but He's still able. This is not about positive thinking. It's not about pretending everything is okay. No, it's deeper than that. It's a faith that says, I may not see it yet, but I know Him. And because I know Him, I can wait. I can worship while I wait. I can praise before the answer comes. I can dance in the desert because I know rain is on the way. Sometimes God allows us to walk through the waiting so that our faith is no longer tied to results, but anchored in relationship. And the Holy Spirit walks with us through that process, patiently, gently, faithfully, until one day we realize we believe not because of the miracle, but before it. And oh, what a beautiful place that is, because that is where miracles are born, in hearts that believe when there is nothing but a promise. You may be in that place right now, the place where nothing looks different, the place where your prayer hasn't yet been answered. But if the Holy Spirit is with you, and He is, then the miracle is already moving towards you, even if you don't feel it, even if you don't see it. The answer is on its way, because when you believe before the breakthrough, you're already living in the atmosphere where miracles happen. Believe before you see, and you'll see because you believed. There is a moment, a sacred moment, when what you've believed for, sometimes for days, sometimes for years, finally breaks through. The moment the miracle manifests, and oh, what joy it brings. But my dear, the greatest miracle is not just in the healing of a body, or the sudden provision, or the restoration of something lost. No, the greater miracle is what happens inside of you when the Holy Spirit teaches you to trust long before the answer comes, and to carry that same humility and wonder when it does. You see, miracles are not the end of the journey. They are often only the beginning. They are signposts that point us back to Jesus. Not rewards for good behavior, not trophies to be displayed, but invitations to go deeper with the one who gave them. That's why when the miracle comes, the question we must ask is not what now, but who now? Because every miracle should leave us more in love with Him, more surrendered to His will, more yielded to His Spirit. It is possible to receive a miracle and walk away unchanged. It is possible to experience the power of God and yet forget the one from whom it came. You remember the 10 lepers, don't you? All were healed, yet only one returned to give thanks. The others received the blessing, yes, but they missed the opportunity to walk in intimacy, not just healing. That's why the Holy Spirit doesn't stop working when the miracle arrives. In fact, his work goes even deeper. He begins to shape your heart so that the miracle doesn't just sit on the surface, but becomes a testimony written into the very fabric of your life. Because the goal is never the miracle. The goal is him. The miracle is just a reflection of his nature, a glimpse of his goodness, a taste of his glory. And when you've seen his glory, when you've touched his presence in that way, something changes. You become marked by it. You begin to live differently. You no longer chase signs. You follow the Spirit. You no longer seek outcomes. You seek obedience. You no longer live from miracle to miracle, but from glory to glory. That is the miracle within the miracle. That is the true work of the Holy Spirit. He doesn't just want to give you something. He wants to make you someone. Someone who walks in unshakable trust, someone who lives in deep communion with him, someone who becomes a carrier of his presence in this world. That is what miracles are meant to do. They are meant to make you dangerous to doubt, dangerous to fear, dangerous to despair. Because you've seen too much. You know too much to ever turn back. And with that comes responsibility. The miracle isn't meant to end with you. It's meant to flow through you. The Holy Spirit wants to use your testimony, your story, your journey of faith to draw others into their own. He wants you to speak boldly, to encourage others, to declare the goodness of God with a fire that only the miraculous can spark. Because once you've seen what he can do, how could you stay silent? And yet, we must remain humble. We must never think that the miracle makes us more important. It doesn't. It simply makes us more dependent. The more you see God move, the more you realize how little you can do without him. The more he flows through your life, the more you understand it's all him. Every breath, every healing, every breakthrough, every blessing. That's why it's so important to stay close to the Holy Spirit after the miracle. Don't rush off and forget who carried you. Don't let the gift distract you from the giver. Let the miracle drive you deeper into prayer, deeper into worship, deeper into that quiet place where he whispers and teaches and reveals things no one else can. Because miracles are not just events, they are encounters. And once you've had a real encounter, you'll never be satisfied with anything less. You'll hunger not just for the result, but for his presence. And that, more than anything, is what he desires. A heart that longs for him more than for his hand. A heart that sees the miracle, not as the conclusion, but as the doorway to greater intimacy. So if you've seen your miracle, rejoice, celebrate, dance if you must, but then return to that secret place. Let the Holy Spirit show you what's next. Let him write the testimony on your soul. Let him mold you into a vessel that doesn't just believe in miracles, but lives in constant fellowship with the miracle worker. Because when the miracle becomes a lifestyle, faith becomes a resting place. And when faith becomes your resting place, the miraculous becomes your atmosphere. The greatest miracle is not what he does for you, it's who you become because he did.
I got mad and